So what we want to do is we want to tell you about this book because it's for the high school teacher that wants to coach high school tennis, but it's also for developmental purposes if you want to develop a player from A to B. Okay, so just some background on me. I used to be a coach in Hawaii for public schools, and then moved to private schools. Public schools OIA soft tennis champion, 1992. Girls Junior Varsity Champion, 1996 to 2002. Girls Varsity Champion, 2003, 2004, and 2004 we were state champions. Chapter 1. When you apply for teaching jobs, they often ask you, can you coach? So they saw tennis and track and debate on my resume. They asked me, and I can coach, but be prepared. They'll ask you, like, what's your coaching philosophy? What's your coaching style? Maybe a sample practice plan. So I included a sample practice plan in case your school has no start date. Some sports have a start date. For example, in tennis, for public schools, no start date. For private schools, you could only come in contact with your players after like January 1st or something. And you could train with them without rackets and balls. But if you had a group more than four, it was a violation or something like that. So here's a practice plan. Season starts February to May. October, November preseason, December to January, then January to Feb. These represent different levels in terms of things you work on because your off-season training is much more cardiovascular and weightlifting and technique based than your in-season training. If you have a start date, there's a practice plan. You always have to have an organizational meeting regardless whenever you're going to be a coach for a sport, and I'll talk to you about running a tryout. The organizational meeting is to make sure your players have their forms and you've did all your forms and due diligence. Some schools make you watch videos, parental consent forms, etc. If you want to run a no-cut program, which is very popular at public schools, I think I was watching some show and they said we're a public institution and we don't have cuts. So I get that, you know. You need to have a way to weed out players and create accountability. And even though you run a no-cut program, you might have 40 to 50 kids. So you have to make each one feel important and create development plans for them. Uh, here are some things that athletic directors and your principal and administrators will worry about. And so just things you want to know. Coaching obstacles. Here's some good questions for your athletic director, like facilities. What can you do? Do you have access to the weight room? Things you might need. Your team identity is something you should come up with. I like to get my players involved in that. You will find out who your parents are, but it's a good thing to parental influence if it's a positive thing. As a warning, don't ever let your parents be coaches unless they're certified, and don't let them coach your kids. I mean, some parents want to do that, but it's difficult. Why bother? If you're an assistant coach, you can work with a head coach. You can have loyalty issues. Like, for example, when I first started out, I was a head coach at Kalani High School, which is on the OIA East, and then I worked for OIA West. Actually, it's opposite. Kalani was OIA West. Lelehua was OIA East. So we were champions of the East by beating the team. We're champions of the West, and we beat the team of the East, and then just happened to be the school I ended up coaching for later. And their players were not very happy about it. So I would suggest if you work within a conference, you stay with that school. Tells you about how to do teamwork. Sportsmanship is a big deal, and it's a selling point, but it's also an important point. I think through tennis, you teach people about life, about honor and loyalty and integrity, and I think it's important things to have on a team. I've cut players because they're disrespectful, they're not reliable, or they flat out just lie. So just be aware of that. Realize what your coaching strengths are. Find that out for yourself. I'm what you call a very positive person, and I'm players coach. And in my first job, I with no cuts, I had to be the players coach, but I also had to be. I was like a one-man band, so I had to be bad cop too. I had to be the disciplinarian, and I had to be forceful. And so you always have to have that edge. You're not their friend, you're their coach. You're not their parent, you're their coach. But keep in mind, like when I coach tennis Monday through Saturday, and the matches are Wednesday and Saturday, the match takes like 6 hours, and we get back Wednesday night at 8, and Saturday we're gone from 8 o'clock in the morning to like 3 o'clock in the afternoon. And you're training from 3 o'clock to 6 Monday through Friday. You probably spend more real time with your kid, with these kids than their parents do. So realize that. Chapter 4 is precautions. Grade checks eligibility, liability, and league rules. Be very aware of eligibility rules. If you have an ineligible player, you can lose the entire match. Liability, be aware of the waivers that they need. Normally, when you play tennis or a sport, they consent to be on the playing field. So in some ways, that waives your liability. I was USPTA certified, so I came with a built-in insurance plan. Whenever I was on court, like I was insured up to like $1 million US. So you might want to look into like a personal liability insurance. Integrity and reputation. I tried to build a very solid reputation in terms of being honest and following the rules and being. I want to be a nice guy, but there are rules. Okay, make sure your forms are in and make sure you know your league rules. There's also sometimes they have uniform rules, like the logo can only be a certain size. They have crazy rules in the OIA. Like sometimes, like if a player steps off the court without permission, they can be defaulted. So be aware of the rules. Okay. Chapter 5, I believe in the power of USPTA or certification or having a system and the USTA leagues. USPTA was a big stepping stone for me because it gave me certification and it allowed me to teach tennis on the side. And it gives me insurance and it also gives me sponsorships. Through the USPTA, we go through clinics all year long. You have to go to like 3 clinics a year, get so many credits. And I learned how to develop a system based on all these different clinics I went to about players. Uh, so that created my simple tennis system. And the USTA leagues are good because they have junior leagues and they have adult leagues. Normally, your players can't qualify for adult leagues, but if you coach seniors, I mean, they're close to becoming adults. And so, say you have a team and you have some medium, you have excellent players that will go play college, but then you have some medium players and normal players, and they can go on and have a great career in the USTA league, 3-5 level, 3-0 level. They can find their niche. I have friends that played tennis since they were I have my players in high school that still are 4.0 players, and they're like been there for 20 years. And they're loving tennis. So you can figure that out. I like to create goal sheets for the players, short term, long term, and goals for the season. Um, in chapter 6, we talk about Radford and the evolution of a system, how we organize a team, my practice schedules. I have a lot of drills that were very specific to me. I created the drills. I talk about how to play cross-court singles, which is the winner, how to play two doubles matches on one court, I talk about the weekly schedule and how you want to have events throughout the year because we train from October to basically October, and we take a small break August, September when school first starts. And it's hot. But we go the whole year, and you got to have things to best things to change things. I talk about preseason November, December. I talk about the traditional team practice in December, secret practice, Christmas, like the day after vacation. I had a practice, and I laid out a schedule for the week. But it was optional. But what happened was the first day of practice, we would all get together and we would run and we would have a party. We would run down to the pizza shop and we would either have a buffet and pizza party and we just play games, whatever, have fun. And then I'll tell them there's no practice for the rest of Christmas. Enjoy your time. January, February we have preseason matches. February to April was actually the real matches. Our state tournament was in May, and June to December we play an adult league. I encourage outside lessons. I used to give outside lessons. I was lucky that my facility allowed me to train outsiders, and I would bring my players to my outside lessons. So that was a good way for them to get better. They got to train with some top 10 players and get to see the difference. Ladder rules, you got to have clear, transparent rules of play to guard the rankings. Here's drills for 4 courts and how we did the rankings, the team events, and maintains team spirit. There's a method to player development and uh, basic strategies for doubles and singles, how to construct a drill. These are important. You can make your own drills. Um, Preseason, we do a lot of stroke construction, forehand, backhand, round stroke drills, and we have variations of different drills. For example, we play down the line, they can only hit forehands, no backhands. Okay. Sometimes we do the opposite, only backhands. We do other variations, and so these are all the different drills we do for volleys and offense, defense, and what we're doing is we're teaching them how to hit a stroke within the context of a live ball. More drills. These are all the different variations of serving and drills, specialty sauces, and slice. And so we go on to talk about the games and how they do different variants. So as you can see, the book is very comprehensive in terms of the progressions on how to build the stroke from step 1 to step 2, and using the players. Because I used to run drills with 40 players on 4 courts. We have fundamental strategies which fall in line with simple tennis, and you incorporate this with your players so that when you use the same things over and over, they become the coaches to other players. Like, it's a pass down system. The seniors tell the juniors when to go down the line. What are automatic shots? Like when someone coming in cross court, where do you hit the ball? Don't think, just hit the ball to open court. You know, where to hit approach shots, where to return serve, cross court. We do other drills, and so the book is actually a developmental book using drills to get players to be better and incorporating a dead ball drill to a live ball. Dead ball drills when you feed them. Live ball drills when you feed them a ball and the player hits the ball to start the drill. All the different drills here. Then we talk about doubles training and the formations. And then we go on to more doubles training. And we talk about the mini tennis games. This is an important section because not too many people know about this. If you play doubles at a high level, all 4 players are at the net. It's basically like playing mini tennis. So we play inside the service box at a high level, hitting hard shots, keep the ball low, keep the ball low, keep the ball low. When we pop the ball up, we slam it. And it's all inside the service box. So you, by slamming everything in the service box, also you don't have the high volley. Everything's below their knees. We talked to you about structuring the workout, conditioning, preseason, weight training. Careful about weight training. Make sure they're fully grown. Dynamic stretching is the yoga stuff where you're like moving and stretching, and some cautions on serving because serving is like pitching. You don't want to wear out the arm. You want to build strength in the arm, but you don't want to wear out the arm. There's injury maintenance, nutrition, and cramping. And lastly, we talked about the mental side of the court. Chapter 8 is all about how to coach in the match, how they deal with adversity, how to deal with hostile courts when you go away games, how to have and you have better kids. We talk about pre-match preparation, the different situations. You as a coach need to prepare your players for these things, and this works for developing tournament players too. Chapter 9, we talk about the next generation, talk about when they graduate, put them in leagues, maybe they become boosters, talk about fundraising and parties. You want to talk about ways to improve your tennis facility and your program and make things better. You want to have boosters and fundraisers, maybe offer a scholarship at the end of the year, uh, equipment. We used to fundraise for our end of the year banquet and the trip to Neighbor Island for states. Lastly, it's all mental toughness and time management because they're players and athletes, but they're also students. We talk about mental focus, finding your center in a match that you can also do in real life. We also create a lot of stress in practice. I'm famous for 2 teams playing against each other. It comes down to like one player against another player, team A, team B. If team A wins, the player A wins, then everyone on team B runs. Everyone runs, but team B runs a little extra. In chapter 11, we talk about getting ready for universities, how to prepare for NCAA scholarship offers, how to try to walk on, and even maybe turning pro. You know. Lastly, we talk about serious tennis in chapter 12 because we talk about how being cuts. Cuts are a nasty thing, but it's necessary sometimes. Um, the private school we had pressure because we had to win. The public school they didn't care if I had to win. We just want participation. Ironically, the wins come when you just want participation. And talk about the seeding meeting because when you have a league and you have a big tournament at the end, you gotta go there with your data for your players and you gotta be prepared to argue for your players. And talk about what goes into being state champions. Chapter 13 is just a summary of all the different chapters. So I think it's a good book if you're a high school teacher looking for a model to coach your team or a template and have some interesting drills. I think it's a good book if you're a pro and you want to see how the progressions work and how to build upon uh, having a program where the players play in more and have more live ball drills. And it's a system. If you are just a league team and you want some different drills to practice with, this is a good way to look at things also. A lot of these things are applicable to like sectionals or regionals or nationals. So all in all, I hope you enjoyed the time and take the time and enjoy the book. If you have questions, send me a line or message.